The notice requirement provided for the open public meeting law has been satisfied. The notice was properly given and notice having been transmitted to the Courier News and Star Ledger on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018, as well as posting on the bulletin board in the city clerk's office. I have a roll call, please.
Council members: Amati,
Here.
Good,
Present.
Hockaday,
Here.
Storch,
Here.
Tolliver, absent on roll call. Vice President Mills Ransom. Present. Council President McCray.
Present.
We have a quorum this evening.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing, please.
Humbly we ask God, the giver of peace and a lover of charity, to give the entire family of nations true agreement with his will and to grant the light of his spirit on all those who work for justice and peace. Amen.
Okay. Mayor Matt now has the floor to lead a discussion regarding the restructuring of city government based on charter changes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will ask the Corporation Council to just give us a brief introduction, and then I will take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Benefit of the council, just a brief overview of where we are right now with regard to charter revision. Specifically on June 21st, both the State Senate and Assembly adopted the charter revisions. As you know, our charter is unique. I believe it's one of 8 in the state, and is an act of the state legislature. It requires a supermajority, a 2/3 majority of both houses of the legislature in order to take effect. It was originally adopted in 1968 and has never been amended until roughly 2.5 weeks ago when it was adopted by both houses of the legislature. We are eagerly awaiting the signature of the governor, which has not happened yet. My understanding is that he has a 45-day window with which to act, and we're awaiting that. The mayor would like to make a presentation in the event that the charter revisions do become law, what we can expect and how we can modernize city government based on those revisions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Corporation Council. And thanks to the council for giving me the opportunity to present the proposed revisions to the city structure, a complete overhaul of our governmental structure, which hasn't been done in decades. And I must say that in terms of the thinking of my administration, everything we do is always with the best interest of all of the residents of our city, every ward in this city. And so we are always looking for solutions that will best serve and meet the needs of the people of Plainfield. So many years ago, when engineers of the time laid out roadways and highways, they built to accommodate the traffic needs of that day and time. In many instances, they didn't have the foresight to anticipate traffic needs of 50 years down the road. As we all well know, this has led to bottlenecks in many places. The Harlem Tunnel is an example that comes to mind, which goes down from about 8 lanes down to 2 lanes as people try to get into Manhattan and out of Manhattan into New Jersey. This is forced the widening of roadways and highways in many places. This concept of many going into one or two. And so the New Jersey Turnpike was a nightmare until they added several new lanes leading into the merge and exit 8A. The point is that growth in most cases leads to expansion for the sake of efficiency. And it is no different with city government. City government has got to be willing to change to meet the needs and demands of the times. And so the current city charter has not been changed in 2 generations, 50 years. The population of Plainfield, in the meantime, increased steadily since that time. Many divisions have grown tremendously, adding new services and serving more residents each and every day. The city now provides updated services which requires specialized management. Keeping pace with the current demands require new technology and a more streamlined function to make delivery of services to residents as convenient as possible, but with always an eye on efficiency and effectiveness. And so under the current structure, which only has 3 departments, one department head is responsible for almost 2/3 of all of the city services and divisions. With the proposed changes, it will be more effective in specialized management of personnel, functions, and services, which will lead to increased accountability. I want to stress accountability. This change is budget neutral, and will not increase operating costs. All personnel involved in the reorganization are currently on staff. The city department heads have always had the option to hire confidential aides. However, there are no plans to make new hires or to load up City Hall with confidential aides. And let me add to that. For decades, every department head had the authority to hire confidential aides / confidential secretaries. This has been the practice for decades. It's nothing new. What is new is that there was a question posed to the Civil Service Commission as to whether or not department heads who have always had confidential aides are able to have confidential aides. And Civil Service said no. No to a practice that's decades old. And so when that happened, on the eve of the introduction of the charter to the state legislature, the administration did what it felt was in the best interest of the city. And it exercised its right to petition the state legislature, just like the Charter Study Commission petitioned the state legislature through the council. And we felt that it is extremely important for department heads to be able to have trustworthy individuals as their executive assistants, because all of us know, those of us who have been in leadership roles, we know that confidentiality, trust, those are key ingredients to having the right person in the position so that you could get the best results. And so we felt it extremely important for us to be able to continue an age-old practice of having confidential aides. And so therefore, we petitioned the state legislature to be able, when the need arises, to have confidential aides / confidential secretaries. The week following the adoption of the new charter by both houses of the state legislature, and as a result of getting the right person for the job in human resources, Civil Service came back and said, yes, you can have confidential aides / secretaries. So we were told no 2 or 3 weeks prior, only to have the right person in the job in HR being able to ask the right question, getting the right answer, the answer that we always knew we, could have and would be able to continue to have confidential aides, which has always been the practice. So it's nothing new. And so the only reason we petition the legislature is to make sure that there are no questions in the future and that it is embedded in the city charter. And so the legislature complied with a practice that the civil service said, oh yes, we made a mistake. You can have confidential aides or confidential secretaries. And so that's an overview that I wanted to use as a lead-in to what is the current state versus the proposed state. So currently, and if you all haven't received the copies yet, anyone in the audience who needs a copy can have a copy. We can pass copies back. I believe we have enough. So, the current state in terms of the chart, the organizational chart, has the mayor, then there's the chief of staff, there's a corporation council who supports the branches of government here in the city, namely the administration and the executive branch as well as the legislative branch. The corporation council supports both. The city administrator has reported into him the economic development director and the community development director. Then there's also the city clerk who reports directly to the city administrator. And there are these 3 departments that exist today. We have admin and finance, which has audit and control, purchasing, tax collector, assessor, human resources, benefits administration, municipal court, IT, media communications, public defender, vital statistics, social services, WIC, and health. Those are all under admin and finance. And on the public works, we currently have our public works division, our parking bureau, engineering, which for the most part is outsourced, recreation, planning, zoning, and inspections. And then on to public safety, public affairs and safety, we have the fire chief who heads up the fire division, signal division, office of emergency management, the police division, which is headed by the police director, our crossing guards, and our internal affairs. This is the current state as it exists today. So I now want to walk you through the proposed state and the reasons why. And I alluded to the reasons why in the overview that I gave when I talk about the need for us to deliver services in a more efficient and effective manner, but more importantly, that there are individuals that are heading departments that are going to be held accountable. Now, there was a lot of noise made about the fact that the Charter Study Commission recommended up to 6 departments, but the administration petitioned to go up to 8. Well, we believe that there ought to be room for growth, and the charter, as I mentioned, was not changed in 50 years. It is a document that lives on for generations, and it can't be an albatross around your neck, as the last one was, for 2 generations with no flexibility. So we felt there was a need, and we have good reasons for proposing what we did. And so we proposed going up to, being able to go up to 8 departments when we petitioned the legislature. I must tell you, we are not going to 8 departments. We are proposing the structure that you have in front of you. That there be a director of a department known as Communications and Technology, which will have the two divisions that we're proposing, one known as Media and Communications, the other one known as IT. Those two divisions perform very critically important functions in our city. They touch everything Plainfield. They are vital organs of our city. And so we believe there ought to be a dedicated focus by a director who will head up those two functional divisional areas. And finance. Finance is the bedrock of any organization. It is that which everything else is built. And so you need a specialized focus on finance. And so in this structure, the Director of Finance will have sole and total responsibility for divisions known as Audit and Control, Purchasing, the Tax Collector's Office, which is the office that brings in 95% of the money that come into the city, and the tax assessor, who has the enormous task of making sure that properties are properly assessed and added to the assessment roll. We are proposing the creation of a Department of Health and Social Services. These functions were previously under Admin and Finance. Finance will stand on its own with responsibilities for financial functions only. Health and Social Services. We're proposing a department by that name, headed by a director who will have responsibility for health, women and infant children, community development, social services, which most of you probably know as PAS, Plainfield Active Services, and vital statistics. Then our Department of Public Works, which used to be the Department of Public Works and Urban Development. We're proposing having that stand on its own, responsible for public works, signal, and signal used to be a part of the police division. That function is better suited under DPW, engineering, recreation, and inspection. Those are the divisions, the 5 divisions that are being proposed to roll up to the Department of Public Works. And then we have economic development, which is so vitally important to everything that we are so focused on in the city, bringing businesses in, bringing investors, and I don't think we can stress enough how important having a Department of Economic Development is, and the 2 divisions that are being proposed to roll into that department are planning and zoning. I think we all know what the planning and zoning functions are. They go hand in hand with our economic development goals and vision for the city of Plainfield. So those are 5 departments that I've gone through so far. And the charter study and commission said up to 6. So 5 plus public safety, one could argue, would give you 6. Well, public safety, as it was structured, has never worked. The public safety department, public affairs and safety, headed by a public safety director who has responsibility for fire and police. Well, recently, or in the last few years, we had the same person as the director of public safety, who also was the director of police. And we had a fire chief. With all due respect to the person who is handling that function very, very well, excellent director, doing a great job leading the department. Every public safety director that I have known since I got involved back in 1996 has been a cop. Every public safety director has been a cop. With not the operational knowledge of fire. I don't think we can deny that. I am proposing that the Department of Public Affairs and Safety be broken into two standalone departments known as the Fire Department and the Police Department. The Fire Department will be headed by a fire director who would be accountable to the business administrator and to the mayor. And then you have the Police Department, which will be headed by a police director. And so we are proposing 7 departments instead of the 6 that the Charter Study Commission called for. And we believe that having 7 departments will lead to greater effectiveness, efficiency across the entire city, and that everyone who heads up those 7 departments, who will be hired with advice and consent of the council, will be accountable to the business administrator and to the mayor, and in reality accountable to all of the citizens, all of the residents of the city. So those are the 7 departments that we are proposing. Again, communications and technology, finance, health and social services, Department of Public Works, economic development, fire, and police. 7. Reporting to the business administrator will also be Human Resources and Benefits Administration, the Office of the Public Defender, and the Municipal Court. These functions reported into Admin and Finance previously. So this is the structure that the administration is proposing to the City Council, and is asking the City Council for its support in creating this kind of a structure that will lead to greater efficiencies, effectiveness, and accountability on the part of every director of these departments. And so it is important for me to stress the fact that this proposed change is budget neutral. Every person that will head up these departments that the administration is proposing is already on the job and being paid. Which leads me to a slide that I have that you don't have, but it's the same slide that you have, if that makes sense. The only difference is that there are names in the boxes, and I will reveal those names. The person that will continue as a chief of staff and will head the Department of Communications and Technology is Jazz Clayton. She's on the payroll. The person that will head up as director the Department of Finance is Ron West. He's on the payroll. The person that would head up as Director, Health and Social Services is Shep Brown. He's on the payroll. The person heading up DPW is Orrin Dabney Sr. He's on the payroll. Heading up Economic Development is Valerie Jackson. She's on the payroll. Heading up the Police Department, Carl Riley. He is on the payroll. To be determined is the Director of Fire. The Director of Fire. And I might as well, tell you now, because this is about creating a new, more efficient, effective structure of government for the benefit of all of the people. So, we are going to be proposing the elimination of the position of fire chief. And that will be replaced by a fire director. That's my presentation to you, the council, and to the residents of the city of Plainfield. It is the administration's firm belief that what is being proposed is in the best interest of all of the people of the city. It doesn't add cost to government. It adds efficiencies and accountability to government. And this will put us in a better place. It will or should last for generations. We cannot be thinking about today and tomorrow only. We've got to think about years, decades from now. And we've got to put a government in place, a structure that will best serve the needs of all of the people of Plainfield. That is my sole purpose in presenting this restructuring model to you, the council, for your consideration. And I hope that after you review this, that as the mayor of the city, that I will receive your support on behalf of the people of our great city. The part 2 of this will come to you in the month of August. There's a lot of code changes that will be necessary here, and so our legal department will be very busy, along with the clerk, putting together the ordinances that will be necessary to present to you in the month of August. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr.
Council. Thank you to the people.
Okay, consideration of public hearing, second reading, and final passage. Mr. Clerk, please read MC 2018-19 by title and further certify that the ordinance has been complied with all statutory publication requirements.
MC 2018-19 is an ordinance amending ordinance MC 2017-04, authorizing a 5-year exemption for certain improvements, conversions, and construction of multiple dwellings, industrial structures, commercial structures, all within the city's rehabilitation area to add an application fee. And it is hereby certified that notice of a public hearing on this ordinance was published in the Courier News on June 23rd, 2018.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. May I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance? All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Amati,
Yes.
Councilman Good,
Yes.
Councilman Hockaday,
I'm sorry, I have a question regarding this. Was this the same one that we had discussed before? Okay. Because, you know, I had an issue with this because of the application fee. I wasn't sure if there was some type of exemption for homeowners or individuals. So, but I don't need to ask really ask the question, but, you know, without seeing some exemption for lower income people who wish to redevelop lower income.
Vice President Mills Ransom? Yes. Council President Craig?
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted on second reading.
Excuse me.
Storage.
Yes.
No, sorry, that's Ms. Storch.
Council President, I just wanted to remind the council that once a motion is seconded and the roll call begins, that there do be no questions during the roll call. After it's seconded, then you can ask the questions. And once the roll call starts, we have to proceed with the roll call.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Mr. Clerk, please read MC 2018-20 by title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all statutory publication requirements.
MC 2018-20 is the ordinance authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with Elmwood Square with respect to certain property commonly known as 518-78 West 2nd Street and identified on the city's tax map as Block 235, Lot 10. It is hereby certified that notice of a public hearing of this ordinance was published in the Courier News on June 23rd, 2018.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. May I have a motion to close public comments?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Amati,
Need a motion to adopt.
May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage? And if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now may I have a roll call?
Councilmembers Amati,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
Sorge,
Yes.
Vice President Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted on second reading.
Mr. Clerk, please read bond 1264 by title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all statutory publication requirements.
Bond 1264 is a bond ordinance providing for various 2018 capital acquisitions and improvements by and in the city of Plainfield and the county of Union, state of New Jersey, appropriating $4,001,558,000, therefore and authorizing the issue of 3,400,000 bonds and notes on the city to finance part of the cost thereof. It is hereby certified that the notice of a public hearing of this ordinance is published in the Courier News, June 23rd, 2018.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. May I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law?
Second.
Question, David? Question?
Someone please explain this to me, please.
No, you speak it in mind.
Please explain this, please.
The purpose of this ordinance is to fund capital initiatives in 2018. So it includes road work as well as other general infrastructure improvements, ranging from purchasing street sweepers to getting safety gear for the firefighters and a new fire pumper. So it's a whole host of capital initiatives that are being funded by this. And you'll see that it ties into another action that's coming up shortly, in terms of actually funding it.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, any further questions? Roll call.
Councilmembers Amati,
Yes.
Councilman Good,
Yes.
Councilman Hockaday,
Yes.
Councilman Storch,
Yes.
Vice President Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
This bond ordinance is adopted on second reading.
Okay. Public comments. A total of 30 minutes has been allocated for public comments, limited to resolutions and ordinances being considered this evening. If you wish to be heard, please give your name and address to the clerk for the record. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. The floor is now open.
Can I ask for a point of order on that? Are the charter changes part of this, or is it just resolutions?
Just resolutions.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to close public comment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions. Are there any questions from the council on resolutions numbered R 233-18 through R 235-18?
Yes. I had previously submitted this question to the council and the city administrator. It's 235, that's the multicultural festivals that would be held, I assume they'd be held in the same place as in the past, on the city parking lot behind Front Street.
Yeah.
So in previous years, we had added language to address citizens' concerns about the noise level of the sound system and the music, which went on fairly late on Saturday and Sunday night and was also extremely loud. We were getting complaints from pretty far away. So we had added language specifying when the music would stop, and also specifying the decibel level that could not be exceeded. But that language was missing from last year's resolutions, if I recall correctly, and I had brought this up, and it's also missing this year. So can we get, I mean, this is gonna be, I don't know how we're gonna do this, because we're approving everything tonight. But I would like that language to be added.
Director Riley.
Sure, it's really easy. I can explain the concessions that we did put on. It's going to be put right on the application itself. I've spoken to Mr. Garcia. The music's going to go off at 8 p.m. on Saturday. The festival's going to go to 10 p.m. The music's going to go off at 7 p.m. on Sunday, and it will close at 9 p.m. At any given time during the festival, we have 6 officers working the festival. Also, if there's any complaints that come to headquarters, they're instructed to either shut the music off or turn it down to a respectable level if complaints come in prior to 8 o'clock. Decibel levels, my staff, nobody's trained on that, they're not scientists, they're police officers. They don't have decibel meters to read, it goes off the buildings, goes back and forth, but we're based upon the phone calls we receive, and hopefully we won't get any.
So I thought we had actually purchased these meters, and I saw a police officer holding one. This goes back probably about 3 or 4 years.
Not under my command, there was nothing purchased, sir.
Any recollection on that?
I'm sorry, Councilman, just per our code though, the police director has the authority at any point, if he believes that the music is too loud, he has the sole authority to shut them down at any point during the evening.
Are you gonna be there with your earplugs?
Listen, my phone runs 24/7, I know that. So when I get phone calls or my team may inspect your phones, will also advise me accordingly.
Okay, so I appreciate that you put the closing time for the music when you did. And you're saying that's in the application? It's written on the application?
It'll be written on the permit when it's issued. I've sat down with Mr. Garcia, explained to him, he's well aware of that, the times and everything's very well there.
Thank you.
Question. In regards to 234-18, would that banner be up the entire month of August? Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? May I have a motion to approve these resolutions?
So moved.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Amati,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
Storch,
Yes.
Vice President Mills Ransom. Yes. Council President Craig.
Yes. Will the administrative branch please present their items for consideration identified as item R236-18 and R237-18?
The first one, R236-18, is a resolution awarding a contract to the Terra Dowdell Group to provide marketing and strategic communication support to continue marketing, rebranding, and promoting the city of Plainfield for 2018 for an amount not to exceed $30,000 from the Urban Enterprise Zone Fund. You previously authorized $100,000 of UEZ money for marketing and communications. $60,000 was awarded to Comcast, or drawn down for Comcast, and we're asking for this $30,000 for the Terra Dowdell Group. Attached to your resolution was a scope of services that included branding and design, copywriting, copy editing, ongoing public relations, and ongoing marketing. 237, we discussed previously the Elmwood project, and that project, what we're asking you to do today is a resolution designating Elmwood Square Urban Renewal LP as redeveloper for the redevelopment of certain properties commonly known as 518 to 78 West 2nd Street, and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement. Again, this is a project that we talked to you about last month. They're building 58 affordable units of housing. There will be approximately 100 temporary construction jobs, and it's also an opportunity to remind people that we are having a career fair on July 23rd, construction career fair on July 23rd at City Hall from 6 to 8 p.m. And this would be a project that certainly some of our people could be put on. The redevelopment agreement outlines the terms in terms of the developer's obligations and the city's obligations.
Mr. Hopper, any questions?
So just regarding 23618, what, you have any plans for the remaining 10,000?
Not at this time. Okay. Okay, I'm told by our communications director that it will be used for print advertising and other communications.
Thank you.
Mr. Good? No, sir. Mr. Storch?
Yes, on the Elmwood Gardens resolution,
Yes.
could you share some details on the timeline for this project?
Okay, as it relates to the timeline, we're expecting them to commence construction within 90 days of being issued building permits, and that the entire construction project would take 18 months. And so right now we're going through all of the pre-approvals. They've been approved by the planning board in terms of their site plan, and assuming council approval and assuming that they will get the low-income housing tax credits, then we will move forward with this project.
So that's probably what I'm asking. When will the news be shared about the award for the tax credits?
The applications are due July 24th and sometime thereafter, September, 90 days. So the application is due July 24th, so within 90 days, we should know whether they got the award or not.
And once they get the award, what would be the next step?
The next step would be for them to apply for construction permits.
And do they have a contractor lined up to do the work?
We have the developer here with us tonight. One of the developers. It's a joint project with Premier Community Development Corporation and the Albert Group. Joe? Oh, I'm sorry, Council President.
Yes. One of my questions that I was about to ask you anticipated it. Thank you. Does the developer have experience? I know that your group does. I wasn't sure about the other group. But please tell us your experience, what you've done that's similar to this.
Absolutely. Joe Albert from the Albert Group. We've done about 3,200 units of housing throughout the tri-state area. Very experienced in this exact 9% low-income housing tax credit program. As Ms. Jackson mentioned, the application is due July 24th. The state usually awards within 90 days of that. We will then go probably to your building department within 90 days after that, 90 to 120 to start construction. My partner is actually a housing development corp of the Plainfield Housing Authority, your own housing authority. So Premier is the corporation that they formed to be my partner on this project.
Okay. And here's a question back to our city officials and maybe our redevelopment attorney.
Yes.
And that has to do, this project is languished, and I'm really glad to see this activity on it. But we're not sure what's going to happen with those tax credits, and I'm not sure if other financing is necessary beyond that. So my other question has to do with, I think the previous redevelopment attorney called sunset clause, or basically a clause in the agreement that allows the city, if there's no activity, if there's no action on the part of the developers, that the city could actually walk away and look for another developer. So could you explain under what conditions that the city could exercise that right, or if we have that right?
Council President? Okay.
Good evening, Jennifer Credidio from McMahon and Scotland and Bauman. We serve as special redevelopment councils at the city. Yes, Councilman, we have what we consider standard default and remedy provisions in the redevelopment agreement, including if the developer does not move forward in a timely basis, we would be required to give him a notice that he was not complying with the agreement. If he continued to not move forward on a timely basis, he was held in default. One of our remedies under the agreement is to be able to terminate the agreement at that point.
Thank you. Although I certainly hope that doesn't happen, and now that the Albert Group is involved, I feel more confident.
Councilman Almighty.
No questions.
Councilman Mills Johnson. Okay, may I have a motion to approve these resolutions? Can I have a roll call, please?
Council members Amati,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Hockaday,
Yes.
Storch,
Yes.
Vice President Mills Ransom,
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes. Will the Department of Administration and Finance please present their items to be considered identified as R 238-18 through R 242-18?
R 232-18 is a request to council for authorization to issue and sell $29,075,000 bond anticipation notes, which represents $3,400,000 in additional notes, and the renewal of $25,675,000 of existing bond anticipation notes. For the new members of the council, this is something that goes on annually. Bond anticipation notes is our primary funding instrument, and bond anticipation notes each have a life of 10 years. R 239-18 is a request before council for a residency waiver for Abby Levinson, the new director of personnel. Abby previously worked as the director of personnel in Patterson, and prior to that, held a similar personnel position at Columbia University. Abby is here, and I would ask that she just stand up and be recognized by both the council and the residents of Plainfield. R 240-18 is a resolution seeking authorization from council for the municipal court to renew postage services with Pitney Bowes. We have a deal where we're going to save money each and every month over what we're paying today. R 241-18 is a resolution requesting authorization from council to amend the budget to include $894,694.61 in grant funding. There are two basic grants that make this up, child-led grant and clean communities. R 242-18 is a resolution requesting a refund in the amount of $7,986 for Block 317, Lot 4, due to a successful state tax appeal.
Mr. Hockaday, any questions?
Only regarding 238-18, the bonds, because I know, myself included, I know a lot of members in the community don't understand them as much. But can you just describe the interplay between these bonds and our budget and how it factors in? Because I know this is budgeted, but.
It's budgeted, but what happens, we have to pay off X amount against those bond anticipation notes each year plus interest, and we budget that. What really happens is that as we get to the end of life of these bond anticipation notes, we then have to go to the market and formally, go out for a long-term debt. So somewhere in the area of 2022, we will be coming before this body, with a request to issue new debt, so that the bond anticipation notes can be paid off and we have a longer-term outlook in terms of our financing.
So this is not a new bond, this is just the payment on existing bonds?
Except for the $3 million in new dollars. That's new, and that goes back to the infrastructure improvements that I talked about in the bond ordinance.
Nothing further.
Mr. Code?
241-18, I see the totaling amount, but what are all the items?
There's a child-led grant in the amount of $825,000. And the Clean Communities grant comes in at $69,694.61.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Storch.
Could we get an explanation of the activities that would be funded by the Clean Communities grant?
The Clean Communities funding is in the agreement that we have with the PMUA. That money goes right over to the PMUA.
What do they do with it?
I don't know. I can't speak for the PMUA. It's a part of their budget process.
Could we get an answer for that sense of the council? It'll be after the vote, but I think it would be good to know.
Mr. Armani.
Just for R 240-18, do you know what the savings would have been, like, had we not finished the contract? Like, your estimation?
It's $510.24 per year.
Well done.
No answer. Okay, may I have a motion to approve these resolutions? May I have a roll call, please?
Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will the Department of Public Works and Urban Development please present their items to be considered identified as R 243-18 through R 249-18?
Thank you, Mr. President. R 243-18, resolution authorizing the award of professional service contract to Canoni Associates for the 2018 NJDOT roadway improvement project for resurface of Maltby Avenue, the amount not to exceed $37,500. It's for design work for everything for that area for Maltby. Resolution 244-18, resolution authorizing the award of professional service contract to Remington and Burnett Engineers for 2018 roadway improvement circuit surfaces of Spring Street and Lake Street in the amount not to exceed $33,025. And that's for all resurfacing, also ponding issue, everything we have in that area for issues. Resolution R 245-18, resolution authorizing approval to submit a grant application, accept the grant to the grant agreement, Union County 2018 Kids Recreation Trust Fund. That's for playground equipment, Mill Campbell. There's matching funds from the city, of course, for that grant. Resolution 246-18, resolution authorizing the Plainfield Planning Board to re-examine Todd West redevelopment plan and directing the Planning Board to hold a hearing and provide recommendations to Planning's City Council as directed. I will refer that to Economic Development. Resolution 247-18, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk, City of Plainfield, to execute an agreement with the County of Union to modify cooperative agreement dated July 21st, 2014, as amended August 14, 2017 for community development. This is for CGB funding. Currently, last year we got $1.2 million. Roll with that. This year was submitted so we can get additional funding. Will be for nonprofit groups, etc. Road resurfacing, all kinds of work about the city CDBG grant funding. And that's for 2018-2019. Start October 1st through September. Resolution 248-18, resolution authorizing 12 lien placements due to emergency abatements totaling $26,127.40. Resolution R 249-18, resolution authorizing refunds of escrow payments in amount not to exceed $500. Inspections.
Mr. Hopperday.
Just with respect to 243 and 244, should these be approved? What's the timeline for commencing work?
Good question, Councilman. Well, once we do the design and everything together, we'll prepare a bid for that, for the work to be done. So the timeline, to answer your questions, is a few months out for that. Get everything done, come out and bid, advertising, okay, getting bids and taking those responsibilities before council present.
Certainly before the winter comes this summer.
Yes, we're going to try to get it done. We're going to try to get it done before that, yes.
Mr. Good.
No, Council President.
Councilman Storch.
Yeah, I had submitted a question about 245-18. I'm sorry, not that one. 244. This is the engineering contract for Spring and Lake Street. So, I mean, I know that Lake Street is it's not a long street, and Spring is almost, you could walk it in about 10 seconds. So it seems like a lot of money for just the engineering portion of it, but I know, and I know some of the officials here know that there are issues besides just resurfacing the road, but it doesn't indicate that in the document. So could you explain like what's included here?
As I mentioned, it's for that, not just for that resurfacing, due to my pond drainage issues, etc., to try to touch upon that. So Lake and Spring Street, drainage, all type of inlets, everything that's over there where the pond issue exists, flooding, so we're trying to address all of that.
So we're going to put a storm drain in.
Well, if it's needed, I'm not gonna say if it's needed, doable based on engineering reports and the design. The goal is to try to eliminate the ponding and the water that's.
Okay. So we may end up paying less than $33,000.
Yeah, that's why it's not to exceed, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think it would be helpful just to get like if there's a report or anything that could be shared regarding this redevelopment plan, which we have been talking about for quite some time, but it's in a really important spot downtown.
Yes, we'll be glad to do that. We further define the redevelopment project, and so for anyone that's interested, please contact me, but I will reach out to council members.
Anything else, Mr. Stewart?
That's it.
Mr. Armani?
No questions.
Mr. Mills Ransom? May I have a motion to approve this resolution? Moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Amati,
Yes.
Councilman Good,
Yes.
Councilman Hockaday,
Yes.
Councilman Stewart,
Yes.
Vice President Mills Ransom,
Yes.
and Council President McCray.
Yes. A total of 60 minutes has been allocated for all public comments to be presented. If you wish to be heard, please give your name and address to the clerk for the record. The amount of time any single speaker is allowed will be limited to 5 minutes. The floor is now open.
Johnny Pritchard, formerly of 723 Arlington Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey, now 42-44 West Holly Street, Cranford, New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, we're in the summer season right now, and we must think still of our soldiers, sailors, Marines, Coast Guard, and airmen who are serving our country, especially those from Plainfield, who are doing their best to defend our freedom. We failed to back up our men there in the war in Vietnam. We lost 16 men there. And it's with great sorrow that I say this. The poor brave soldier there despised, no countenance a stranger. Remember, he's his country's stay in day and our danger. And also, I noticed from the Cranford Township Committee meeting that some part of Muhlenberg will probably be restored, but we've got a long way to go. We need to regulate Muhlenberg in the fullest. We have a hospital that serves Plainfield and the surrounding communities because we're too close to ground zero. Let's not forget that on September 11, 2001, nearly 3,000 people have been slaughtered like hogs in a pen. And the sooner I get in Muhlenberg, the better off we all would be. Building whistle clear.
Timothy Priano, Martine Avenue. Two things I'm coming here for. I want to thank Jazz for putting out on the mayor's newsletter this week about Ducray with our programs. I left it with the clerk information for you. If any of your constituents would like to know more about us, we're really trying to make the school's day in Plainfield. It's really getting hard with everything going on with the arts. It's so important that we get involved and tell your neighbors about what the school is. 92 years in Plainfield. It's a nonprofit. I'm sitting on the board with a lot of other people that are working really hard to try and bring this back to the community. The children don't have the arts in our schools. I've spoken to the school district. They've cut all the school stuff. So it's important that as a city we keep the arts flowing in Plainfield. Secondly, your flow chart, sir. Where's the council on here? Where's the council members? Where's their voice? That's the question I have. I don't see a place for the voice of the council. And that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Good evening. Mohammed Muhammad, 33 Westville Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. I'd like to begin by saying I seen the summer program rolled out this afternoon for the kids. It was an excellent rollout. It was well staffed by the number of teams that I've seen throughout the city. Given consideration of previous years, this year looked very good in the community throughout the city, and I appreciate that from a community activist standpoint, also as a resident and taxpayer and parent. Being I'm also the chairman of Plainfield Anti-Violence Coalition, we have an auxiliary unit entitled Plainfield Build. Build is an acronym for being united involved in local development. It's a community activist group where we advocate for jobs for Plainfield residents. I just had one question in reference to Elmwood Square. I heard you mention there would be temporary jobs. I'd like to know if there's a number established for the amount of jobs that would be on that project, and would it be where as though Plainfield residents have the first opportunity to get those jobs?
Yes, there is 100 expected temporary jobs, and our goal is to have first sourcing for Plainfield. So Plainfield residents will be given an opportunity to vie for those jobs. But remember, I'm advising everyone to be part of that training program with New Jersey Build Career Fair. We had a career fair in June. We had less than 10 people show up. And so I'm asking that you continue to get the word out for those who are interested in construction careers to attend the community fair on Monday, July 23rd at 6 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. How? Place. Oh, the place is City Hall Library.
Mary Burwinkle, can I put this down? Mary Burwinkle, 1785 Sleepy Hollow Lane. As many of you know, I was secretary of the Charter Study Commission that did its work in 2013. Between 2013 and 2017, we were unable to get a sponsor to take up the bill. So I was happy when on April 9th, City Council agreed to repetition the legislature to amend the charter as recommended by the Charter Study Commission. After April 9th, I never heard a thing about the progress of the bill from the administration or the City Council. In late June, I heard through the grapevine that the Plainfield Charter was before the legislature, and I learned, much to my dismay, that bills in both the Assembly and Senate, sponsored by Assembly members Carter and Kennedy and Senator Scutari, had dramatically changed the Charter Study Commission recommendations. The amendments added 5 departments rather than 1 to 3, and added a new provision allowing the mayor to appoint up to 10 confidential aides to support department and division heads with no oversight. Sadly, the amendments added a dozen what looked to me to be pork barrel jobs to the recommendations of the Charter Study Commission with no public notice or discussion in Plainfield at all. When I sent a letter to the mayor, city council, and clerk asking them, among other things, who had drafted these changes, I got an email message from the city clerk saying, please accept this as an official response. To be clear, City Council Ordinance MC 2018-08 was identical to the one presented approximately 5 years ago and included no changes whatsoever. It is my understanding that once these recommendations were submitted to the legislature, the bill was subsequently amended. So, from that non-answer, was I supposed to think that 3 legislators in Trenton randomly decided to add 3 departments and 10 confidential aides to the charter recommendations with no prompting from the administration? Why didn't somebody just tell me the truth? Tell me what happened. Tell me who did this. I have 3 takeaways about this administration from this unfortunate experience. It appears to me that this administration has no real interest in transparency or real communication. The administration sends out scads of public relations email containing meaningless platitudes and apparent substitute for actual communication about what is happening behind the curtains at City Hall. For instance, our special charter is 50 years old this year, enacted in 1968 in the wake of hard times in Plainfield. It is being amended for the first time this year, but radio silence from the administration, not a single press release about the legislation. And was that because you thought you could get away with these changes with no one knowing if you didn't publicize it? Second, the administration has no interest in good public policy. Placing a provision in the charter which allows the mayor to hire up to 10 confidential aides is outrageous and it's bad public policy. This appears to be a brazen power grab by the mayor to me to circumvent civil service and unions, and he has violated separations of powers as he appears to have stepped into the council's legislative role by interfering with these charter study amendments. In my opinion, the politically motivated legislators who agreed to include these things see it as a good parking place for political appointees. Shame on them. A charter is supposed to be a skeletal outline of the powers of the municipality, with city council ordinances filling out detail so that they can be changed when necessary. So much for that. The administration is not acting in a fiscally sound manner by including these extra jobs. If you are not planning to hire them, why litter the charter with them? You are burdening generations of Plainfielders because what if you decide tomorrow that you do want to hire 10 confidential aides? What if the next mayor wants to do that? What's the real cost of that? Every hire will have a phone, a computer, a place to sit, health insurance, pension eligibility, and what about cars? With all of those added together, 10 of these people could cost well in excess of $1 million a year in my estimation. If you have that money, you should reduce taxes for taxpayers or spend it on the backlog of capital improvements. We're stuck with these changes unless you go to the legislature and you get these dopey confidential aides out of the charter. It does not belong in the charter. So city council members, you have a job to do here. You're the governing body, the legislative branch of the government. You are not here to be a rubber stamp for the mayor. Section 2.10 of the charter talks about separation of powers. You should read it. Petitioning the legislature to enact the charter changes is legislative work that belongs to your branch, and you had the duty to do it under NJSA 4069A16. It sounds to me as though the executive branch stepped in your way, went right to the legislature, possibly without your knowledge, and altered the legislation. So in my opinion, I think you need to get some legal advice about taking back some of these charter changes. The other thing you probably need to look at is Article 4, Section 7, Paragraph 10 of the New Jersey State Constitution. That is the section that allows the legislature to pass municipal special laws on a 2/3 vote of both houses after a petition by the governing body of the municipality. In the rest of the section, I'm going to need one more second. In the rest of the section, it provides that the passed law only becomes operative if it is adopted by ordinance of the governing body or a vote of the voters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeanette Rochelle, 1410 Evergreen Avenue in Plainfield. I just want to say that I can't speak as eloquently as Mary, but I want to say, Mayor, with all due respect, I think you're not getting it. There were 5 people who spent months and months and more months researching charters, doing interviews, getting people up here to do interviews. The charter people were traveling South Jersey, North Jersey to interview people. Mrs. Davis called in during her vacation because she felt as though she had a responsibility to the citizens of Plainfield to present a good charter. If all that you say, and I will tell you it does not feel like this is transparent, it doesn't feel like you have Plainfield's best interest, but it doesn't feel that way to me. But assuming that you do, why could this meeting not have happened before you went to Linda Carter and Jim Kennedy and Nick Scutari and say, here, put it forth in front of the Senate and the Assembly. Why couldn't this have happened before so that the citizens of Plainfield would have had at least some indication and some knowledge of what was going on, as opposed to this, what feels to me like this sneaky way of saying, okay, we're gonna have 10 confidential aides, but we're not gonna do anything with them. Well then, why do we have 10 confidential aides? We have the ability to have all of these department heads, but we're not gonna have all these department heads. It doesn't make sense to me. The logic just isn't there. The other thing that I would like to know is when you were going through this, you said it was revenue neutral. So one of the people, I think it's Shep, who is Health and Social Services Department Head. So my question is, and I guess, Mr. West, this is to you also, was Shep making a director's salary when he wasn't a director? Or is he going to get a director's salary as a director? And the same thing in terms of the fire director, or the fire person. So they're not on the payroll now, so it seems to me that you're going to need salary, benefits, pension, laptop, car. So I'm just curious as how this can all be revenue neutral if you are adding people's salary, if you're adding a new position. And I think that's all that I have to say. Again, I just don't understand if this is all transparent, why this didn't happen first, and then you go to the legislature. Thank you.
Council President, would you like me to respond now?
No comment. Thank you.
I'm Greg Hayworth, 1785 Sleepy Hollow Lane. Couple points. Mayor Matt Beck. I've known Mayor Matt for a long time. I think he's been and done some fantastic things for this town. I disagree with him on this issue. First off, Mayor Matt gave examples of poor decision-making, referencing the turnpike, referencing the tunnels. The reality is we'll do better with good decision-making rather than increasing our bureaucracy. I think that's what all of you are hearing today, the concern about the bureaucracy and whether it's expanding and really needed, particularly as it relates to confidential aids. I note that Jeanette said about the neutrality of this. It's the same point, is that while each of these persons may be a salaried employee in our municipality at this time, each of them is going to get a promotion, and each of them will get a pay increase. And God knows where they also then want to replace themselves now that they're ahead. That's the bureaucracy that concerns everyone here. It is why we run these deficits on a state and municipal level that we will not be able to continue. On the confidential aid, it does not belong in a charter. There are samples of 4 charters within the Faulkner Act. None of them references a confidential aid. They talk about mayors, council people, department heads. No one talks about a confidential aid. It does not belong within a charter of a state. What are we going to do next? We're going to have, who's going to handle, the janitorial duties? Are we going to have everybody going down and up the line? I think the charter is intended to be high-level positions that are ingrained and as the focus and is in fact the fundamentals. I don't believe the municipality of Plainfield needs to have within a charter confidential aids, so it's ingrained in it. And my final point is, and I think Adrian's heard it, and everyone here has heard it, is that the way this came about has created tremendous suspicions within the community. Rhetorically, to each of you on the council, you passed an ordinance that went up to the legislature. Did you know it was going to be changed at the time you passed it? If you did not know, then even more so are we concerned out here that even our council people don't know what's going on. And I suspect not all of you knew. And that's a big concern. There needs to be some transparency here. And if that kind of thing continues, then the local government fails. And that's my words to Adrian.
no more for public comment. Can I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council President, Council, and people of Plainfield. You know, someone once said that there's no greater lie than the truth misunderstood by those who hear it. I clearly indicated that the only reason the administration went to the legislature was because on the eve of the introduction of the charter by the legislature, we were given erroneous information by the Civil Service Commission. The city has always had the authority to hire confidential aides. It's nothing new. But because of erroneous information received on the eve of the charter that was about to be introduced in the legislature, the administration felt it necessary to guard against what we had heard only hours previously, which was a reversal of what had always been the authority of the administration. That is to hire confidential aides for department heads. That has always been the case. And so when we learn of that on the eve of the introduction, and we put our heads together, we felt it necessary to petition the legislature. So what was done in terms of the approval of that amendment keeps in place what has always existed. It's nothing new. The only thing that's new about it is that it's now codified in the charter. And that was based on erroneous information that we received hours before the charter was about to be introduced. So that is the administration's official, that is the administration's honest response to anyone who says that we're going to be loading up with what was described as pork barrel jobs. What I am saying to you and to all of the people is that if that's the opinion, it means that the administration has always had the authority to load up with those pork barrel jobs. And so that's totally erroneous. That conclusion has no merit, and I am very firm in my position to the council and to the people of Plainfield that what we did was nothing more than what the individuals who came before us put in place. But had it not been for an erroneous decision that was given to the city, we would not have had to go down that road. So nothing has changed in terms of the confidential aids. The term revenue neutral was used. It is not revenue neutral because it has nothing to do with revenues. It's budget neutral. That's what it is. And I explained earlier the other portion of the changes that the administration will be seeking from the governing body, and that is to make individuals that are leaders in the various departments more accountable to the people, to the city administrator, and to the mayor. And I lost my thought there. So the mere fact that we have proposed these changes in no way suggests that there's anything that is nefarious about any of the actions that this administration has taken. We will continue to exercise restraint. We will continue to exercise our fiduciary responsibility. We will continue to make sure that we manage the budget in the way that we are supposed to do it under our fiduciary responsibility. So there are no corporate jobs, no additional and confidential aids. They've always existed, and we merely were misled, and we asked for the legislature to correct that so that we would not have to deal with that in the future. And so that's what we did. There was a point that I was about to make, and I lost it in my desire to respond fully to the issues that were raised. If and when it comes back, I will make a point, Mr. President.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I didn't realize, Mr. President, that you were about to adjourn because there were some other things that I wanted to touch on unrelated to that. And it has to do with the New Jersey bill, which you heard mentioned that will be on the 23rd of July. It is extremely important. We've talked so much about putting our people to work. And these are jobs in the trades, whether it's a pipe fitter job, carpentry, plumbing, electrical. And we want to provide our young people with the opportunity to receive about 180 days of training. At the end of the training, they will receive a journeyman's card, which will give them the ability to join one of the trade unions, where they can earn as much as $100,000 to support their families. So we're encouraging everyone to go out and tell someone to come to City Hall and to participate in this process so that you could begin that journey to creating a better life for yourself and your families. So those within the sound of my voice, we want you to come to City Hall, and we want you to come so to help spread the word. And I know that Director Jackson has something to say about Muhlenberg.
I just wanted to provide the public with an update on Muhlenberg. Just a week ago, JFK sold the property to CHA Development Group in terms of the Muhlenberg Hospital. We're well on our way in terms of the project. We had a mishap last week, so we're asking the neighbors and the residents surrounding Muhlenberg Hospital to join us on next Thursday, July 19th, from 6 to 7, and it's on the Moffett side of the building, and we'll have seating and water for you, where the developers can talk about the project schedule, and what's going on. But they sincerely apologize for the work that was done last week, and we appreciate everyone bringing it to our attention. They are currently going through the building and removing furniture and equipment that's not necessary. They also have met with a few of us, including someone from our Historical Preservation Commission, to begin to identify and inventory all historical artifacts and memorabilia, which we will be tracking where all of that goes. In the mayor's newsletter this week, he mentioned that anyone who has family or friends and they have some memorabilia that they would like, that they had donated, we certainly will like to know about that. And then once they do the clean out of the building, that would start the demolition process, and then the building process and the rebuilding, or the renovation of one of the buildings. So what we are having there are medical offices. So just to remind everyone what the project is, we'll have medical offices in the new facility, as well as 120 residential units. And so if you need more information, please see me.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Jones.